to another edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of FirmFlex, your social media marketing agency for lawyers, as well as managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm here in Connecticut. With me, as always, my friend down there in the great state of Maryland, DC, Virginia, South Carolina, the grand poobah of all things in the mid-Atlantic, my man Seth Price, not only Price Benowitz, but also Blue Shark Digital. And folks, you should know that not only is Blue Shark Digital a premier or the premier SEO firm for lawyers, but it's also one of the sponsors of this show, along with FirmFlex. And we got something special for you today. We are going rapid fire. Rapid fire, Seth. So before we get into rapid fire, I just want to ask you how your week's going.
It's going well, although it's funny you say this. In the beginning, something that we did early on was we added New York to our names. We started before we had South Carolina, New York, DC, Maryland, Virginia, New York. My dad, who's senior counsel to the firm, is up there. I'm New York barred, and we had that as part of it as sort of differentiating factor. Hey, we're a regional firm, something that might give some gravitas. Form over substance, to be fair, when you look at revenue coming into the firm. Spoke to Tyson the other night, and Tyson thinks that I'm a New York lawyer practicing in New York. All these years, it just shows you, we think a lot of ourselves. You've said the states that I work at how many times, but it just demonstrates that as much as we think we're targeting and telling people what we do, it's amazing. As somebody who I consider a close friend and business confidant, that you would actually, so the good news is it worked in that it created a perception of greater than DC, Maryland, Virginia. But literally, I think that we just got to keep and always remember that what we think the messaging we send out is not always the messaging we send out.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think that's something. And that's why one of the greatest things that you can do is constantly market to your former clients, just to remind them who you are. I mean, what's amazing to me is, the open rates. I mean, 25% of our monthly newsletter. And I'm thinking to myself, why these people have so little going on in their lives that they're opening the email newsletter from my law firm, but they are. And so we're staying top of mind. And the great thing about it is, a couple of years ago, we had 4,000. Now we're up to, 5,500 or 6,000 people on the active client list. And, we're getting referrals from those people. And that's what matters. We're staying top of mind, and we can build that up and build that up. But I want to go rapid fire. So what's your
rapid
topic?
fire? I got 6 topics for you today, Jay. Okay. We're going to go straight through, 6. No commercials, no nothing.
All right, let's
do it.
First
thing, something I'm seeing, want to hear, and I'm sure it's going on in your world. We've had a number of people either with sickness, mental health issues, some sort of issue, disability issues, where all of a sudden, just like falling off the bike, they're gone for a period of time, maybe forever. How do you deal with it?
I'm in the middle of dealing it right now because about 3 hours ago, I got a text message from my office administrator who says, I'm in the emergency room. They say it's gallbladder and I need surgery. I don't know when I'll be back. And this is, a struggle for me because we had actually sat down, now that I've sort of taken a step back, with my office admin and my administrative partner, and said, we need to set out all of the things that you do and start making sure we have systems for all of those things. And now I've got her being out for probably 2 weeks or so. And then the holidays, it's the end of the year. And I don't have any of those systems. Well, I have some of those systems in place. I don't have them as detailed as I would like to be. And we don't have a junior admin, which was going to be my next hire, was going to be a junior admin, hopefully in the first quarter. But now I'm thinking, oh boy, it's the last 3.5 weeks of the year, and I'm in a pickle, right? So obviously, systems is one of the things that we rely on very heavily. And I will say, everyone says, oh, you're the systems guy, you're a systems guy. I hate systems. I mean, I love them that they help my firm run, but I'm the worst at following systems. If I did, I'd be actually not in my office today because the new system is for me to not be here. But I'm sort of like a rebel in that I'm the kind of guy who pushes back against systems, but I found I have to develop them. And obviously, we're going to rely on those systems that we have had documented over the next couple of weeks to limp through and get us there.
I've seen this from a couple different places. We had somebody in a one-off practice group lose their admin to a disability, where, wrong time of year, end of year to be losing somebody. Another person in a standalone practice area basically called up one day and said, I quit. And like, whoa, zero notice. And I was like, it turned out there was some sort of family meltdown going on, multi-pronged. And I came back with the opposite, saying, no, you're on paid leave until you figure it out. You tell me when. Guy's great worker, loyal, and well, not that loyal, but loyal in the sense that like they've been showing up and kicking ass. To replace this person would take a lot, and I don't want to. I want this person back. And I went through this years ago. It wasn't sickness, but somebody was moving to New York to be with a ailing parent. And this is way before COVID. And they said, I have to quit. I'm like, no, you'll work remotely from New York. We'll set you up. And 8 years later, that person is a rock star within our team, and it's worked fantastically. So I feel like, it goes back to the question we talked about on other shows about how much extra bandwidth, how much redundancy do you have? You talked about the Fred Stanley utility infielder, somebody who could pivot. Some of that can be done, especially administratively, but when you start getting into certain, in area specific paralegals, that can be challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is a challenge, and it actually. Now I have a topic. I don't know if you were going to. We talked a little bit about topics in advance, but this leads me to my next topic. What do you do in situations where somebody has left your firm and then says, you know what, the grass wasn't greener. I'd like to come back. And that brings up a lot of emotions for me. It brings up some negative emotions because I've been through this. It brings up a positive one. But how have you dealt with that? Because that's something that, does happen, because in a lot of our listeners, a lot of our people out there, the markets necessarily aren't as huge as DC, Maryland, Virginia. I mean, some people are in small counties, small regional practices. The opportunities for some staff aren't necessarily huge. And they go out, they try something that doesn't work, and they say, I really wish I could go back. And then they apply for an opening. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think I've been generally like my longer term memory is not as good, which is a positive in the business sense, the ability to forgive and forget, because depending on how, look, obviously somebody burns down the house on the way out, that's different. But generally, if somebody leaves on good terms, I've tried to make that work over the years and have had some pretty good successes with it. I believe Andrew Finkelstein, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, who's in upstate New York with a really impressive practice. I believe he has a no return policy. I'm not positive, but that's what I recall from that. I was talking to the lawman the other day, and he had somebody who was with him for about a decade. They left to do something else in sales for a number of years, came back and ended up working in a very senior leadership role within the firm. So, academically, I love it because it's almost like somebody's leaving to get an advanced degree and coming back. A lot of it is, if we as business owners can take our ego and put it to the side about when somebody leaves. Are they saying that are they rejecting you? Because again, me, and I speak a lot about how the hiring of people and the sales process, a lot like dating. Well, this is when somebody leaves, a lot of analogies to a relationship ending. And there are times when a relationship ends and you're at a wedding years later, they've been together 15 years. Oh no, really, there was a break in it for 2 years. Sometimes it's needed. And sometimes there's a reason that you did it and you shouldn't go back. So much of life, I say depends. I've been successful with it. Yourself?
Well, it's interesting because I've had this happen a couple of times. So I've had a number of I've had two attorneys who've left to come back. And one of them left for all of about a week, got to the new job and said, this is not for me. So that's Dan. He's elevated himself up now to our head of legal operations. Another one was an attorney who left us, came back, welcomed him back with open arms because he was a good lawyer, then left again. And the second time he left, he did one of those, F you, here's where you're wrong. You're a terrible business person. And then when it was brought up that he was looking and had expressed an interest in coming back, I said, yeah, no, the way we ended.
So I think isn't that part of it? It's really what really goes down, and is there an explanation for where somebody is in the life cycle? Right. not burning down the house.
Well, talking about life cycle, one of my great paralegals, as a part-time paralegal, she left because her husband was a Green Beret, was being deployed. She was pregnant and
I
wanted to
remember
move
that.
with her
I remember the
family.
call when
I
it
said,
happened.
I said, see you later, Emily. But then the minute she said, hey, you know what? My kids are now all in school, and I'm looking to get back, dip my toe back into it. Do you know any lawyers down in North Carolina? I said, I'll do you one better. Come back.
Right.
And so now
And
she's
look,
back with me, and she's now moving back to Connecticut next year, and I'm ecstatic. I mean, talk about full circle.
and if you look at the big places like PwC and others like that, these people come in and out all the time. Big law firms, people go to the government, come back. It's not all rosy. I mean, there's all different issues around it. But to me, it is really tough. I remember when I first started, and I would see people like Umansky who had a longer tail than I did, and there would be issues of people starting firms down the block. We interviewed him about this. I remember, but way back, and to a certain extent, if you can, and it's tough. I wish, and I saw this when I was a baby lawyer, and people would leave. Two types of people leave. People stay in touch; it's part of their greater friendship circle, and people where that place sucked. And it works the other way about the person who leaves at a big firm. Oh, they never knew what they were doing versus they were great. Oh my God, they walked on water. And it's not usually in between. So to me, I wish I could build that much more of a stronger alumni network. A true story. I went to a woman who had come as a junior attorney to us, and she worked for us for a year or two. And then she was part of that 1 to 3 years. She was fourth on the depth chart in her department. She went off and did her own thing. And I went to a holiday party of hers. And it was a little humbling because it was literally all of the people who had left our firm over the years. I'd say, being kind, about half of them were the disgruntled people, and half were people that, at least from my perception, were on good terms. But there was definitely sort of, I've seen this before when people leave, and we had one woman who was amazing, one of the few people over the years we've left I didn't want to lose. But when she left, the way she left, that's burning the ship, was how she motivated herself to the next job. It's not, I don't like that. It's not something I admire, but that's somebody who can't come back versus somebody who's part of the community and stays with it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I mean, it really all comes down to the relationship with the person, what positives they can bring back to your firm, and really where your firm is going. Because sometimes these people, they want to come back to a firm that doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
And that
that's the internal. It's a whole nother topic for another day, which is it's not the way it used to be.
right.
And I laugh because, again, having been inside big law and seen how awful it is, every once in a while you get somebody talking about, the meetings or the management. I'm like, guys, you don't know from too many meetings and terrible management. But that said, I think many of the things you and I have talked about here, simplifying, at least my firm, trying to limit the number of SKUs and really focus on certain areas, that's with good reason, because the more complication there is, the more one-offs, the more systems you have to layer on top of each other, rather than allowing people to stay in their lane. So anyway, I digress.
Okay.
Next topic. Shark Tank. Hello Prenup, recently featured, at least new to me. And it was interesting because in one set, first I was like, hello divorce. We know of those guys in the space. We follow Billy and what she's trying to do in that space. It really appears to be more like a slick legal Zoom for prenups. It was cute. I think there was a new shark on. They were trying to include him, a deal that based on 25 sales to date, normally would get laughed off the stage, got 2 sharks. I think there was more to the deal, more to the fact that if you watch the show, but want to get your thoughts on this. Was a divorce lawyer who said, look, there's a place for millennials who don't want to go through something big and scary. They don't want to go to a divorce lawyer before they get married. It's cringy, as my 7-year-old would tell me, and or cringe. And so it's a slick thing. What are your thoughts on some of these SaaS-based potential for leveraging law to the masses?
Well, it's interesting. I think, number one, there's a demand for it because people do want this knowledge, and I mean, would love to put together a prenup without actually having to sit down with a lawyer, make an appointment, and do all those things. So these are the types of things that you can monetize if you put it together. I mean, we give out on a couple of our sites, a simple power of attorney, a simple will, all with an eye towards building a mailing list and keeping people apprised of what we're doing. It's not with trust in estates work, but it's just the statutory will in Connecticut that we give away. But there are people who are willing to invest a little bit and get a little better customized of a product. And I don't think there's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in the ideas of equal access to justice, putting it out there to let automation take over isn't a bad thing. I mean, I was thinking, as I tend to do, there is a market for not even a trust and estates lawyer. And this is one of my latest ideas, and I want to research it and see if there's something, but just for probate administration of existing wills and existing decedents for people out of states. I mean, we have a large number of people in Connecticut whose children have moved out of state, or our aunts and uncles and kids have moved out of state. And I'm thinking, I could set up this website. I don't want to write your will. I don't want to do your estate plan. Let me come in. I will promise you, quick, effective, inexpensive probate administration will close the state as quickly as legally possible. And of course, in our state, we get a percentage of the estate fees and that type of thing. And it's a way to just get, an active lawyer working on it. So if you live in California and your aunt dies in Connecticut, you don't need a will. This is a service that just does the probate of the estate and settles it all out. And there's some guaranteed money there with the lawyer getting paid out of the state.
And it sounds like to me like a giant headache. Stay in the lanes. We're focusing. This sounds like a whole bunch of noise. Again, at scale, anything, but I'm not sure what the customer acquisition cost / the filter to get to that person / how many people have a meaningful percentage to make you any money who are actually going through that service.
Well, that's what I got to research. I mean, these are just shower ideas.
Gotcha.
Driving down the road.
Next topic, overseas. We both have a number of overseas people. You posted something today or the other day about gifts. Talk to me a little bit. What are your thoughts? As we build overseas teams for ourselves, what are the things we're going to do? I've thrown out, hey, I put my guys on 15.5. You're talking about sending out some sort of gift, but nothing is easy. The cost of getting a gift to somebody, to me, when I looked at numbers, I was like, I'd rather just send them a week's pay as a bonus. That would be about the same thing. When I saw it was in some of these, again, like anything else, if you have enough people in one place, you have one of your people find the place that delivers locally, that sends them something meaningful, not the Giarda chocolates that we think is nice, but something that is actually a treat for them and from their home world. But what are some of the things you're thought to give some extra depth to that relationship?
So what we've started doing for our overseas talent is a little bit of what we do for our stateside talent. When you join us, we ship you a nice Yeti mug, a mouse pad. We want them and a bunch of pens and highlighters and stuff, because we want them to think of their desk as an extension of our office. Our intake team members, they all get the intake team t-shirt of the year. We have a different t-shirt every year. And so they get those things that they have.
And you just throw them in the mail?
The service that I use is that My US. They have a package hopper where if I'm shipping something from my office, what we'll do is we'll pack it up. We'll go on them. They'll help us with the forms. I think I sent a laptop to somebody in Honduras this week. It cost me $50.
And what was this called?
It's myus.com. They have two different services that they use. One is the straight up My US, which what they'll do is they'll actually create for you a shipping address for stuff from Amazon. And so you can ship the stuff from Amazon to their facility, your address at their facility. I don't think I could use it for a GMB drop.
But you could just Amazon directly to?
Yeah, there are a number of countries that you can Amazon directly. What I do in that situation is I'll use my VPN to VPN into that country. And then go on the Amazon Mexico website.
Do you need a VPN, or can you just go to Amazon and say, I want Mexico?
I am sure you can. I just have never done. I always took that extra step to use the VPN to be in the country when I place the order on the Amazon Mexico site to ship to my Mexican staffers.
Let me ask you a question. I'm about to bring in the next topic, which was therapists, something that you're bringing into your firm domestically, I assume. Have you thought about trying to do something internationally?
This is actually international that we're doing it.
Okay.
So, and I'm gonna. I got this via Ryan McKean. We've been talking about it. He's integrated it for his people. I'm integrating it for mine. The service is called Spill.chat, and it is a UK-based therapy service that allows you to have one-on-one meetings with licensed therapists in their country. They are time zone irrelevant. I mean, you can book it around the time zones that you need for the most part. I'm actually doing my full onboarding on Thursday of this week. It's relatively inexpensive, but my state-based employees all get Talkspace through our PEO, which allows them to have one-on-one sessions with a therapist that way. My overseas talent did not have, they're not on our benefits package, so they didn't have that. So we sought out this service that allows them to send Slack messages back and forth with their therapist, but then also schedule therapy sessions. They can go up to like 6 in a row with the same therapist and work on particular issues. And I got to tell you, the response I got from my overseas team, they were ecstatic that we were getting it, that I was committing to their mental health. And so they're all really excited about it. A number of my stateside people wanted to know if they could opt in because they like the idea of being able to send messaging back and forth to the therapist and not actually have to do it face to face, but just get some feedback on certain things. So this is a benefits package that we are offering to our overseas talent in addition to their other things.
Love it. Bonuses versus raises, end of year.
Well, my policy has been for years, I give a week's pay at Christmas time. It's just standard. It's easy. I can wrap my head around it. I don't necessarily tie any particular KPIs to it, although by then we will have done finalized all of our reviews of the people annually, which begin in the middle of November. And so people would have gotten raises already if they were getting it. But we just do a week's pay for our administrative staff. I do not bonus lawyers at the holidays because if they have an opportunity to generate extra income.
Well, they already have their bonus baked into their deal. It's not a holiday bonus.
Exactly. It's not a holiday bonus. I mean, now I have many lawyers that work for me and many lawyers that no longer work for me that never generated themselves a bonus, but that's on them. It's not on me.
Gotcha. One thing that came up in the Facebook group a day or two ago, I don't know if it was the Guild or main group, Ryan pinged me, Forbes, get yourself featured in Forbes, worth it, not worth it. He pinged me because of link juice with follow link. There's obviously value there, very rarely worth what's there. You're playing on ego. If it is on a topic, if you get an actual article placed in Forbes for X amount, and it's on a topic you want, let's say it was on civil rights in Connecticut, not the worst thing in the world. It's indexed, it shows up. That has some, but the normal puff piece that is no index, no follow links, that's where it's just playing to the ego, like the ad in the Wall Street Journal. So you could say, as seen there. You agree?
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And that's one of the big things that I think, your SEO insider and some of the stuff that you've talked about before can bring to people's attention is that there's a difference between a do follow and a no follow. Why don't you just explain that? Because I know what it is, you know what it is, but a lot of our audience may not know what it is.
Basically, in the code of a site, the person whose website is linking to yours has a choice. Is that link going to, there's a signal in the link. Will the Google bot follow that path and give credit, an attribution credit, so that if you're on CNN and your name is there, it's great that your name is there. It's better if there's a link back to your site. When there's a link back to your site, there are two forms of links. People don't care. If nobody's thinking about SEO, they include a follow link. Google likes it, they see it, and that is the ultimate juice that helps you on the link side of SEO, a follow link. What many organizations like Wikipedia, for example, did is to prevent people from spamming. They made the entire site no follow, no index, no follow. And the majority of it, I'm sure there's some exceptions. And what there definitely are, I'm sure. But what basically SEOs look at and say, you know what? Google's not stupid. It may not have the same weight, but they see the relationship there. There's traffic, there's other good things about it. So even if something is no index, no follow, the link still goes through. You still want that link in Wikipedia. If the New York Times and basically places like Fortune and Forbes that were like whoring themselves out went no index, no follow to prevent all of their freelancers from basically whoring themselves out and selling the articles and making it less valuable to put links in there. I get 40 emails a day from people that want to place links in these different places. And by making the larger organizations no index, no follow, it takes that third party game away.
Gotcha.
Cool. Final question. I finally, at your inspiration, hired, and the Jersey Boys hired a full-time videographer.
Everyone's taking my ideas.
Well, you put it out there. You said do it. You told me you were shaming me for not doing it, so you can't blame me now for doing it. Give me 3 to 5 things that I should be having this guy do.
Okay, so first thing we did is we had one of our overseas people go into Avo by practice area and go through and identify all the questions that people have asked. They did a breakdown of the most common questions asked over time on Avo. That was the first thing that we did. The second thing that we did was we took, basically we created a Slack channel for us that we've actually had forever, which was what are questions that people have that we didn't have an answer to right off the bat, either on our website or in our training. Now, lately, there haven't been a lot of questions in this channel because we have been really aggressive about this. But I went back, I just scrolled back like 4 or 5 years and found those questions, and we recorded those questions and answers. One of the cool things that you can do is what we've done is we did our questions and our answers, and then we stripped the audio from the answers, re-recorded the questions so that it matched exactly the answer that was given, because sometimes you sort of dovetail into another thing on video, and turn that into episodes of our podcast. We have a law firm podcast that gets served as a remarketing campaign on Facebook, since you can't really do Google remarketing anymore if you're a lawyer, but we can do it on Facebook. So the people who hit our website, and depending on where they hit our website, if it's domestic violence, civil rights, or DUI, they'll get served an ad for that season of the podcast. And it's amazing how many downloads we have of our firm podcast. So we're talking, a 20 episode season that is 3 minutes per episode. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's certainly getting people another avenue for them to listen and learn and find out about us. We pick up 5 to 10 listeners a week, and that's it's reinforcing the knowledge of who we are. And then some of the fun stuff that you can do. There's the TikTok hand chopping thing that people are doing. A couple of people here have done that in the office. Interestingly enough, Facebook is pushing out their reels, the Instagram reels, and you can carry those over into Facebook now. I did an A/B test, and this is a very, very rudimentary A/B test, but simultaneously uploaded a reel and a Facebook video at the exact same time with the exact same content.
Unbelievable.
So in the first 12 hours, we had 250 views of the reel. In a week, we only had about 47. Now, I didn't promote it or anything.
No, understood. But I saw the same thing. I basically threw my hands up on some of this stuff because I know it needs to be done. And like, it's sort of cobbler's shoes. Take Blue Shark, for example. We have all this great content. So I'm experimenting. It's a work in progress. And if you see some crappy stuff on my feeds, I apologize in advance, but I'm trying to you got to walk before you run. And this is not my videographer, but it's, overseas group that's chopping up some of my SEO Insider stuff. And it's amazing because it goes from a handful of video. If you put something on YouTube for 2 years, might get 40 views. And, I'm looking at the reels and it's like 3,000 in a week.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff. Now, is that making you any money? Probably not. But, if let me take it back. If we go back to the whole discussion we talked about after the CRISP conference about branding and value of branding versus other stuff that you're doing, becoming regional in your sector, you can't get a better ROI than that. It's essentially free media once you have your produced video.
So here's my thought about this, I know this isn't part of your topic, but I want to go
This is
somewhere.
our last topic, so go to town.
Okay, so with digital marketing, you and I are big advocates on spending money on digital because it's a billboard that's always on and all that stuff, and it gets everybody in your face. And we have talked in the past, at least I have, about consciously committing a certain amount of money to developing referral marketing because referral marketing is also a valuable way for lawyers to market. And a lot of lawyers I know say, well, how do I invest in referral marketing? Because they're like, I don't necessarily want to go out for drinks or take people out to dinner and that type of thing. And so what I say is, if you don't want to do that, that's cool. Take 10% and just invest it in your brand because your brand resonates with an audience or ever.
I think you got to go one step further because what's in it for them? Yeah, brand is great. And look, right now, last 3-4 issues of like the local color glossy I've put out there, right? I'm pissing away $3,000 to $4,000 per issue. There's 6 per year. And I've done it for they keep giving me a reason and give me awards and put more money in. And I do it I do it for my regional one. So my neighbors see it. Like I'm leveraging me. I'm one of the biggest referral source in the firm. And you know what? I'm seeing, I can't tell you I'm crushing it. This isn't like, hey, I've done this and the truck accidents are floating in. But I'm at the Caps game the other night. Somebody calls me because somebody ran somebody over. Sadly, they had the person who did the running over. But a federal lawyer is calling me. I am convinced that it's what you're talking about, which is in the back of their mind, sort of what we'll end the show with what we started. When we talk about Tyson, not thinking I'm a New York lawyer, right? We laughed. It's a funny haha. But I have neighbors, they know I'm a lawyer. They don't remember what I do. Occasionally might stick in their claw that we have an accident practice. Oh, you're the ambulance lawyer, But when you see that stuff in the magazine, they're not like some people take a picture of 2 or 3 to say they got it, but they see it. And which goes to your point, I don't know if it's straight brand. I'd like one step more, meaning it's not the brand for the sake of brand. It's the video talking about what you do, because if you're not asking for what you want, knowing you're a lawyer, I think is not enough. Maybe in rural Connecticut it is. In DC, lawyers are not in short supply. The question is, are you the lawyer that solves their problem of whatever it is that you're pushing for?
No, I mean, in my hometown, lawyers are not in short supply. On my son's Little League baseball team, there's like 7 lawyers between the
by
fathers
DC
and
standard,
mothers.
that would be low, but that's another story.
so in that respect, you can't, you could throw a rock and hit a lawyer. That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy. So I think that we covered all of our topics, right?
No, this is awesome. This was a great. I wish every show was. It's sort of like
so the one that Seth directs, folks, he loves. The one that Jay directs, he doesn't love the format. So maybe you can give us some comments down below which format you like better. If you're listening on the podcast, certainly give us a review and let us know what you think about this way of doing things. Maybe we'll bring this back and do this once or twice a month, and we'll flip-flop.
Well, look, I want to dig further into the use of the videographer. I'm going to pay this guy. I need to extract out of Jay's noggin the best, because I feel like right now I'm in the indexing what I have and sort of cleaning up. Oh, that lawyer's not with the firm anymore. Like I want to basically take the terrible videos of the past, but the next step is, okay, now it's time to play ball and pony up and start shooting like crazy.
Yeah, we are trying to. My videographer is like, I spend my days and nights just sitting at a keyboard editing stuff, and then it's shoot these 3 things, and he's like, I think I might need a team member soon. I'm like, well, let's see.
Final question. Yes, I got that. Oh, you need this. I talks about like business owner stuff. He's like, I need this software for stock video footage or something, and he's like, it's like $1,200. It's like $150 a month, and I'm like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, they have a $250 version, but it's like. It's less protects you if they're stolen. And I'm like, yeah, we're going for the $250 version. Meaning like the sales guy was trying to up him that it's only $20,000 of protection for video malfit. And I'm just like, so I feel you, but last question, how often are they actually shooting versus editing and producing?
So we have a KPI of at least 1 8-hour block of shooting per week.
So it would not be long. So my goal is to have 2 days in the office. The question is to get the blocks longer than.
Right. So because what'll happen is, you'll do have hair and makeup, and then that'll go a half hour long, and then the video's sitting there waiting to go, that type of thing. And so what we try to schedule it out in advance so that we have an 8-hour day. And what we really try to get is six hours of video. If somebody's on a roll and we can just spitball, I mean, we do a lot of stuff that's unscripted. We don't do a lot of day in the life type of personality things yet. We're really sort of focusing on the substantive content, but there's a plan in place in Q1 to do more of.
Well, so
Let me
let's
introduce
next
you to
show.
Brittany.
Let's kick off, because I want to talk to you about my prioritization of FAQs versus the emotive video versus the social media TikTok-y type reels versus the commercials.
All right, so let's make a plan that our next topic will be growing your firm with video in 2022 and how you should approach it.
Awesome.
Sounds like a good topic.
Sounds great.
And we can run through all the different options.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for us this week here on Maximum Growth Live. Of course, if you always want to catch our show, you can catch us live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, in our Facebook group. It's also syndicated through Maximum Lawyer Media, and our podcast is available on their platform as well as anywhere you get podcasts. Also, if you want to keep up with Seth, learn a little bit more about do follow and no follow and things of the digital marketing nature, you can follow him on his SEO Insider Show. Great way to keep up on the new things that are happening in digital marketing, but also get a little knowledge for yourself to make sure that you're not spending money you don't need to be spending. Of course, if you love systems like I do, and we talked about a little earlier in the show, please join my Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth operation. In fact, I think we got one of the ideas. You saw me post my system for sending stuff overseas today, and that's how it came up as a topic on the show. So we'd love to have you in that group. But that's going to be it for now. Any last words, Seth?
No, excited. You got me pumped. I was a little, running down on motivation, and I got more shit to do now that I know what to do with.
Yeah, your to-do list went from this to this.
Exactly.
So, awesome. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us live. We'll see you next week here on Maximum Growth Live. Bye for now.